No update. Just felt a little something in her groin, so we'll get it evaluated and see what happens from there.
The WNBA is now sitting on a situation that feels like a ticking time bomb ready to erupt. And if the newest whispers coming from inside the league's private circles are accurate, the sport could soon face a crisis capable of canceling games and possibly damaging what should be the most profitable season women's basketball has ever experienced. The discussion centers on the most extreme step possible, a player walkout. Quiet murmurs have reportedly grown much louder behind closed doors as leaked recordings and confidential talks supposedly point to a rising group of veteran players threatening to step away unless the Caitlin Clark spectacle changes right away. This situation is no longer only about envy or simple competitive intensity. Instead, it has evolved into a serious labor conflict where athletes believe the league is creating an uncomfortable workplace by elevating a single rookie above the protection, peace of mind, talent, and legacy of the women who spent the past 28 years building the game. The public storyline presented by media outlets frames everything as normal growing pains. But insiders claim the truth is far more serious, describing something closer to a locker room uprising. Reports indicate that players are increasingly frustrated with what they view as obvious favoritism, reckless fan reactions, and a media system that paints black women as villains while promoting a white hero storyline. If these athletes actually move forward with a strike or decide to boycott matchups involving Caitlin Clark, the impact would go far beyond headlines. It could trigger a complete breakdown of the WNBA. The league's public reputation is now hanging in the balance, which is why officials at the front office are reportedly scrambling to control a rebellion that already seems to be spilling onto the court. To truly understand how things escalated to a point where professional players might consider giving up their paychecks simply to protest a 22-year-old rookie, you have to examine the resentment that has been building ever since Caitlin Clark announced for the draft. The tension did not begin with a rough foul during a game. It began with the belief that the league was prepared to reshape its entire identity in pursuit of fast revenue. Speculation intensified when audio snippets and screenshots started spreading through private online groups, supposedly capturing players complaining about unequal treatment regarding travel and security. For many years, WNBA icons such as Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner, and Aya Wilson have squeezed into economy seats on standard commercial flights, enduring delays, tight conditions, and exhausting travel schedules that would challenge most professional athletes. They pushed for charter flights for years, arguing it was essential for health and protection, only to hear repeatedly from league officials that the cost was simply too high. Then Caitlin Clark entered the league. Almost overnight, due to security concerns tied to her enormous popularity, the organization suddenly located the funds to introduce a charter flight system. On the surface, this policy benefits every team, but according to the leaked frustration from inside locker rooms, many veterans are angry. They reportedly feel the league ignored their safety until a white superstar became the focal point. That perception of privilege has deeply damaged morale. It delivered a message that many players feel they are treated like second-class figures within their own league, reduced to background roles in what they view as the Caitlin Clark spotlight show. And that growing belief is the very base of the current strike threat. The belief forming among many players is that the league is no longer operating as a true merit system, but instead as a marketing engine designed around one individual. Yet that is only part of the issue, because the financial side is where emotions become even more intense. To understand the anger, you have to examine the numbers. Caitlin Clark reportedly secured a $28 million agreement with Nike, a staggering figure when compared with the salaries earned by even the most accomplished WNBA champions. Everyone understands that Nike operates separately from the league itself, but the optics of a rookie entering the WNBA with a signature shoe deal before playing a single professional minute still bothered many players. This feeling was amplified when someone like Aya Wilson, a two-time champion, two-time MVP, and Defensive Player of the Year, waited years to receive similar recognition. According to circulating rumors, this financial disparity has created a divide that feels impossible to close. When athletes are spending their off-seasons competing overseas in places like Turkey or Russia just to cover mortgages and living expenses, Watching a newcomer immediately receive superstar treatment creates resentment that no amount of media coaching can completely conceal. Alleged locker room conversations suggest that players feel slighted not only by the money but also by the lack of respect for the athletes who actually carry the league during games. Some are reportedly asking why they should sacrifice their bodies setting screens and diving for loose balls to elevate a rookie when the spotlight appears focused entirely on her. That financial frustration provides the fuel, but the spark that almost ignited everything was the physical play the media keeps discussing. Everyone saw the Kennedy Carter moment, the hip check that echoed across the sports world. When Carter knocked Clark to the floor and reportedly used an insult, headlines exploded everywhere. However, what much of the mainstream coverage overlooked, and what the circulating rumors claim, is that the play may not have been a random burst of anger. Some speculate it was meant as a statement from veteran players. The theory suggests that certain veterans informally agreed that rookie hazing should be intensified for Clark, not only to test her toughness but also to humble both her and her rapidly growing fan base. Yet the massive backlash to that foul is reportedly what pushed strike discussions forward. When Carter was heavily criticized in national media, labeled harshly, and targeted with waves of hostile online comments, other players reportedly stood beside her in support. Players also reportedly believe the league failed to shield Kennedy Carter from the wave of racist harassment she faced from some of Clark's newer supporters. This point sits at the center of the strike speculation. According to these claims, many athletes feel the WNBA is eager to welcome the revenue that comes with Clark's growing fan base but unwilling to confront the hostility that sometimes follows it. The sentiment being described is simple: if the league expects them to compete, it must also ensure their safety from online mobs. Some players reportedly feel that every time they defend Clark on the court, they risk damage to both their reputations and their mental well-being because a passionate segment of her followers will immediately target them with abuse. That perception has created a strong us versus them atmosphere where players believe they are battling not just an opponent, but an entire audience. What happened afterward only intensified the tension because the media debate pushed the situation closer to a breaking point. Public figures like Pat McAfee stirred controversy after referring to Caitlin Clark as a white BH on live television, a remark he meant as praise but which many interpreted as disrespectful toward the rest of the league, while Stephen A. Smith repeatedly criticized WNBA players and accused them of jealousy. This narrative, according to the circulating rumors, has boxed players into a corner where they feel villainized no matter the outcome. If they win, they are labeled bullies. If they lose, they are called irrelevant. Those leaks suggest the strike threat is being discussed as a way to take back control from the media storyline. The reasoning reportedly goes like this: if everyone believes Caitlin Clark is the only thing that matters, then try broadcasting games with empty roster spots on the other side. It becomes a high-stakes standoff. The players understand that the WNBA product depends on the elite competition they provide. Clark may be an elite shooter, but she still needs teammates to pass the ball, set screens, and opponents willing to challenge her. If the collective talent across the league chose to sit out, the Caitlin Clark spectacle would turn into a solo practice, and the league itself could lose credibility. This is the leverage they believe they possess, and according to the rumors, they are prepared to use it if the sense of disrespect continues. It is also impossible to discuss this situation without acknowledging the racial dynamics that are intensifying the conflict. For decades, the WNBA has largely been led by black women who have stood at the forefront of social justice causes. Players dedicated seasons to Breonna Taylor and rallied in support of Brittany Griner during her detention. Now many of them feel a new wave of fans entering the arenas does not respect the culture that shaped the league. Alleged leaked conversations suggest a strong feeling of betrayal, with players believing the league is shifting its focus to attract a demographic that does not value the identity the WNBA built over time. In that sense, the strike talk is not only about money or media narratives but also about demanding cultural respect. Athletes such as Angel Reese have become central figures in this growing culture clash. Reese, despite delivering an impressive rookie season, is frequently portrayed as the antagonist opposite Clark's hero narrative. Many players see that framing and strongly reject it. They also point to moments such as Reese being fined for declining media interviews after an emotional loss, while Clark often appears to receive more lenient treatment. This perceived double standard is reportedly a constant topic in private group chats among players. They believe officiating decisions lean one way, coverage in the press feels unbalanced, and the league's promotional strategy highlights one star above everyone else. In their view, the strike discussion is a way of saying they recognize what is happening and refuse to participate in their own erasure. The ultimate demonstration of veteran influence, however, may have come with the Olympic roster decision. When the selection committee left Caitlin Clark off the Team USA lineup for the Paris Olympics, it sent shockwaves throughout the sports world. Many fans were furious, calling it a missed marketing opportunity, but whispers inside the league suggest the move was intentional and supported by veteran voices. The speculation claims experienced players made their position clear. If Clark joined the roster immediately, it could disrupt the chemistry that had already been built. They reportedly did not want the media frenzy following them to Paris. They did not want every practice session revolving around Caitlin Clark. They did not want long bus rides turning into non-stop conversations about her. By leaving her off the roster, the message was that experience and earned respect still outweigh pure hype. In a sense, it functioned like a quiet protest, a subtle refusal to allow the marketing spotlight to dominate the most sacred stage in women's basketball, the Olympic team. Yet that moment, seen as a win for veteran players, only intensified frustration from Clark's supporters, which in turn pushed players to become even more guarded and more open to extreme options like the rumored league-wide strike. The tension can be felt in nearly every interaction. You notice it when Clark hits the floor and no one rushes to lift her up. You notice it in the sideways glances exchanged on the bench. You hear it during post-game interviews when players carefully avoid saying her name. The supposed leaked recordings are simply a reflection of a reality unfolding in full view every night. League officials are attempting to patch a problem that likely requires a deeper solution. They issue fines, release statements, and try to steer attention back toward the games, but the human side of the situation cannot be ignored. These are highly competitive athletes who devoted their entire lives to a sport that spent decades outside the spotlight. Now that attention has finally arrived, many feel it is focused elsewhere. The emotional strain of that shift is difficult to measure. The rumors about a strike represent a symptom of a league expanding faster than its structure can handle. Players are pushing for improved salaries, better travel conditions, and greater respect, and they can see the new money entering the sport. If they do not secure a share of that growth now, some fear they never will. They worry that once the Caitlin Clark excitement settles into routine interest, their leverage could disappear. So they are rattling the cage, letting these threats surface to signal to Commissioner Kathy Engelbert that they are willing to escalate if their voices remain unheard. It is a risky strategy because a strike could distance the same fans they hope to win over. Still, for many players it comes down to principle. They would rather compete in a quiet arena with dignity than perform in a packed building where they feel like background characters. As the season moves forward, the real story may not be on the scoreboard but along the sidelines. Watch who interacts with whom. Notice the intensity of the fouls. Pay attention to the tone used in interviews. The talk of a strike may sound dramatic, yet in a league shaped by persistence and advocacy, it fits the identity. WNBA athletes have never hesitated to stand up for what they believe is right. Right now they believe they are defending the spirit of their league against what feels like an outside takeover. Whether this conflict ends with compromise or confrontation is still uncertain. One thing is clear though, the quiet inside locker rooms has vanished and the noise surrounding the league is only getting louder. The whispers, the tension, the rumored recordings all hint at a turbulent summer that could shape the direction of women's basketball. Veteran players appear to be drawing a line in the sand, and Caitlin Clark stands on the other side of it. What unfolds next could become one of the biggest stories in sports, because if the games ever stop being played, that silence might echo louder than any last-second shot. The consequences would reach far beyond the court, forcing difficult conversations about the economics of women's sports, the power of media narratives, and the complicated relationship between race and popularity in America. The athletes understand those stakes, which is why the threat feels so serious. They are betting that the WNBA ultimately depends on them more than it depends on the hype. In a world dominated by clicks, headlines, and viral moments, that is a gamble with enormous risk. Still, the defiance remains visible. The alleged recordings and the talk of shutting everything down reveal a group of competitors unwilling to stay quiet, even while the world chants the name of the one player they are trying to challenge. This is no longer just a sports storyline. It resembles a dramatic saga unfolding in sneakers and jerseys, with huge money, pride, and the future of a generation on the line. And perhaps the most unsettling reality is that we are only at the very beginning of the conflict. The real battle may have just started.